Hello rock stars. I just want to show you how to do the three really important equations from Algebra 1. They are slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b, point slope, y minus y1 equals mx times the quantity of x minus x1, or standard form, ax plus by equals c. I'm going to do problems 1 and 2. I'd like you to follow along and then see if you can finish the rest of the packet. I'm going to be honest with you, I generally will start with slope-intercept form. If I needed to find that, I look at what's given. The slope is 2. The point that it goes through is 110. In that point, x is 1 and y is 10. I'm going to plug them in the slope-intercept equation, which is over here. Instead of y, I'll put 10. Instead, or substituting in a 2 for the slope, and x is 1. So you can substitute in any point that is on the line for x and y to solve for b. We do not know b or my y-intercept. 2 times 1 is 2, so I have 10 equals 2 plus b. Then I subtract 2 from both sides, and I get 8 equals b. Once you have b, and you have your m value, you're in good shape to write the final equation. Y equals slope is 2, then it's an x plus your y-intercept, 8. So your final answer should have an x and a y with it. Let's do number 2. 2's the same idea, staying in the slope-intercept column. Instead of the y, I will substitute in the 10. Instead of the m, I will substitute in the slope, which is 1/2. Instead of the x, I will substitute in that x value of that point, which is 4. And I'm solving for b. 1/2 of 4 is 2. Then I will subtract 2. And for this one, I actually get the same y-intercept, but my slope is different. My slope was 1/2. So I write my final answer. The slope goes before the x, and the y-intercept goes on the end. So that is slope-intercept. That's my favorite. I think it's the easiest one to graph with. Point slope is going to give you, I'm going to highlight some things. You're going to substitute in at 3 different spots. The m is the slope, and you're going to plug in the point that they give you for x1 and y1, and that is plugged in after the minus sign. So you're going to simply go y minus, the y value of that point is 10, equals, now this is an m, I know what that is, that's my slope, that's 2, and then x minus, my x value of that point was a 1. Please keep in mind, if that x value was -1, it would be minus a -1, which you would change then to a positive. Same thing down here, y minus, now check the y value, which is a 10. The slope is 1/2, and then x minus the x value is 4. Again, let's just say this y value was -10. This would have been y minus -10, because the formula always has a minus. So if you had minus a negative, you could make those 2 negatives a positive. Okay, and then the last one, which is kind of the weirdest and the hardest one, is standard form. That means once you get your answer, the x's go first, the y's go second, equals, and then your constants. 2 rules for this are a must be positive. So the number in front of the x value must be positive, and you can have no fractions or decimals for a, b, or c. They must be integers. So what I advise is you take your slope-intercept formula and bring it over. I'm going to do the same thing down here. I'm going to take my slope-intercept and bring it over. And according to this formula, the x's must be first. So if I move the x's, which are on the right, I need to move them first on the left. How do you move a positive 2x to the other side? It would become negative because you'd be subtracting. So I usually just draw an arrow to where it goes and change the sign. So it's negative 2x plus the y equals the 8. So all I did was take this guy and moved it first. Everything else stayed, so the sign stayed the same. One of the rules was that the a value must be positive. Well, the number in front of my x is negative 2. That can't be. If it ever comes out negative, all you need to do is multiply the entire equation by negative 1. It still equals it. It doesn't change its value, but it makes it follow the specific rules you need. So if you multiply by negative 1, it simply changes all the signs. And there is your answer in standard form. So let's go to this guy down here. I will move my x's first. If I moved a positive 1/2 to the other side, it would be negative 1/2 x. Obviously, if that was negative and I moved it, it would have been positive. I'll bring the rest down. Sometimes you're done at this point, but I'm not again. First, because my a value is negative, so I will multiply everybody by a negative 1, which simply change the signs. 1/2 x minus y equals negative 8. And the second rule from up here is that you can't have any fractions or decimals, that the values for a, b, and c must be integers or whole numbers. So if you have a fraction and whatever is in the denominator, my denominator is a 2, then I multiply everybody by 2. And as long as I do everybody, it's okay. So 2 times 1/2 is 1. 2 times negative y is negative 2y. And 2 times negative 8 is negative 16. If you do not want to write this one, that is okay. So that helps you with the 3 types, and I'd like you to continue with this packet.